Hey there. I have a question today from Lauren. So, Lauren says, I've been on a long journey through anxiety, depression, substance abuse, and eating disorders. I always knew that these diagnosable disorders came from the same tendency to overthink, ruminate, catastrophize, and obsess. Reading your book this past summer was eye opening for me because it showed me that I exist beyond my own thinking. I love that so much, Lauren. It is huge, very eye opening. However, it's been jarring to reframe my sense of self as an identity beyond logical thought because I've spent my life as an intellectual, a problem solver, and a highly analytical thinker. I do value my analytical and logical thinking skills, but the dilemma I'm now facing is understanding what this skill set means in context of my greater self, or the peaceful, clear space between thought and emotion. I'm dying to ask how you reconcile your identity as a businesswoman and PhD with your relationship to inner peace. I know you're an example of a woman who knows herself as calculated analytical thinker and also as someone who can truly let go and experience wisdom. How do you balance these two strengths? Is there space for both identities? Based on your book, it seems like logic is a less concrete aspect of personality or identity, but I struggle to let go of my attachment to my innate tendency to analyze, learn, and seek knowledge. I used to think this was so concrete and relatable, and that I could trust myself as long as I sought the information to back up the questions that my thoughts produced. I'm concerned that if I detach too much, this is the crux of it. I'm concerned that if I detach too much from logical thinking, I'll be a different person, that I'll become less competitive and less achieving. My assumption here is that letting my thoughts run around all the time and following them toward their logical conclusions is what makes me intelligent. What are your thoughts on this? So, first of all, I love this question. Thank you, Lauren, for sending it. I know this is all very new for you, it sounds. You just read the book this summer and you're in a place, I want to reassure you, where many people are, where we've spent our lives thinking that we are a certain thing, that we having a certain identity, right? A certain uh, traits and qualities and things that we think make us who we are. And to begin to see around that, to see a bigger picture really is what we're looking at. Like, yes, you are intelligent and analytical and logical, and that's wonderful. And you love to think and research and do all the stuff you do. That's wonderful. We're given a mind and a brain, with those abilities for a reason. So it's amazing that you can use those when you want to. But where I hear you being right now is like, oh, but what if that's not who I am? Those are just things I had. Like maybe you can do the splits, maybe you can't do the splits. Maybe you can roll your R's or curl your tongue, maybe you can't, like that's how I see more of the logic and the analysis and all of that. It's like we can all do it, we all have it. It's amazing that we have the ability to use that, but it was never who you were, and it's never who any of us are. It's just something that we're able to do with the abilities that we've been given, that we're designed with. And I hear you, when you're in this place of like, well, wait a minute, this is what I've identified with for so long. And not only just what you've identified with, but what you've thought keeps you safe and helps you succeed in life. Now, here's what's so interesting, Lauren. You say, um, you said, you've been through all these things, anxiety and substance and eating disorders. I always knew that these diagnosable disorders came from the same tendency to overthink, ruminate, catastrophize, and obsess. So you see that this whole thinking thing that's so amazing, when it's taken a little too far, it leads into all of that. And you're 100% right about that. 100% right. When we lose the bigger picture, when we only come to identify with our thoughts, and when we think that's all we are, and we need to think our way through life, and there's no other bigger sense of intelligence besides the intelligence that sits in our brain, we're in trouble. We suffer. We go through exactly what you've been through. When we start to wake up and say, oh, wait, what if there's a tool here that I can use? My own personal intelligence and my personal ability to logic and analyze, but it's just a tool that I can use when I need it. It's not who I am, and I don't need to live my life with it all the time. And what if there are lots of times I'm going to be in life and there's a different source of support that's much better, that's much wiser and much deeper and helps you out so much more. So I can feel you kind of in this place, where you see that thinking can go too far and has gotten you in trouble at times, led you to suffer at times. I don't know that that's even trouble because it's just woken you back up to the bigger picture. But anyway, it's led you to suffer at times, right? But you don't want to throw it all away, because like you say, if you throw it all away, where's your competition, your sense of competition going to be? Where's your achievement? Where's all this stuff? I want you to consider that you are not a high achieving, productive member of society, like because you think your way to it. Consider that if those things are moving through you and they feel right in a moment, you will do things and you will achieve things and you will want to act on ideas you have without having to think really hard about it. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have to use your personal intellect and your mind. Of course you are. But again, that just means you pick up a tool and use it. It doesn't mean you have to identify with it. And it doesn't mean that it's the best tool all the time. So just because you have a screwdriver doesn't mean everything requires a screwdriver, right? It just means that you have that ability when it makes sense to do it. So I always think of like kids for this, kids don't beat themselves up and think, oh, if I have to be competitive and I have to achieve and I have to do all this, and look how productive they are and look how much they do. It's because we're fueled, we're designed to have preferences and passions and interests and to act on them. When we aren't overthinking it, we do that. When we aren't overthinking it, we just do what makes sense, and we're very active in life, right? We do all kinds of stuff. We don't just sit around. But what we adults tend to get used to is a life where the only way, before we do anything, we're going to beat ourselves up in our heads about it. And then it starts to look backwards. Does that make sense? It starts to look like, oh, because I beat myself up for not going to the gym or not working hard enough or something, that made me actually do it. That didn't make you actually do it. You'll go to the gym, you'll work hard, you'll achieve things in life when you don't have a lot of thinking in the way, when you're listening to something from a deeper place. So that's where I would kind of point you toward, Lauren. Like you're looking there. It's amazing. And please know that this getting your balance in this when your identity has been in one place forever takes a minute. So you're in good company. Many people go through this a little bit, but just keep being curious about who you are beyond your thinking self, as you say, beyond all that thought. Like what naturally comes up that you don't ever have to manage. You don't ever have to think your way through. What's there by nature? All the little hunches and inclinations and desires that you have that you act on, you're not thinking your way through those nearly as much as it seems like you are, nearly as much as your mind tells you, oh, I got this, no, your mind isn't really doing all that. Life is doing all that. So you ask how it is for me to kind of be in these two places. Well, it's not even a comparison. I think that everything wonderful that I've ever achieved or thought of or created doesn't come from my tiny little brain. My tiny little brain is necessary as a tool to help it come to life, but it comes from a deeper, I don't know, a deeper desire. It comes from an idea that I didn't come up with. It comes from a brand new thought that has some action and energy behind it that I just go and act on because it sounds fun or because I want to, not because I'm telling myself I should. And then again, the intellect and our memory and our analysis and all that, wonderful tools, but they are the tools. They aren't the driver of the whole thing. The driver is the quiet space where all the creativity and all the fresh new ideas live. So it's very easy to navigate both of those because I know one is where it's really at and the other is kind of the tool to use in the moment, but it's not the source of anything. I hope that helps. Let me know. Thank you so much for sending your question, and I'm really excited for you, honestly, for where you are. Again, this kind of, oh, I don't know what's going on here. It's so normal. It takes a minute to get your bearings and all of this, but it's a great direction you're looking in. So thanks so much. Thanks everyone for listening, and I'll be back here next Monday. Bye, everyone.